Hi, this is Tiffany Coral with Module 9 of EDL 959 on meeting student learning requirements by means of an improved writing across curriculum programs. Section 1 of my case study is the background information on the case. So we have Kim. Kim is in her 5th year as assistant principal at Triscuit Middle School. Triscuit Middle School encompasses 7th and 8th grade students, around 650 of them. And the majority of those students are scoring below expectation on writing prompts on standardized assessment and state testing. This teaching staff at this time are mostly Caucasian, and they have recently been giving a training on formal writing model, and this is the model that they are to be using and to incorporating into their classroom cross-curricular. Ellen is the trainer. She is training not only students, but as well as the staff on the formula writing model that is being pushed district-wide. It is a district-wide incentive, so the admin are in full support of this. They have been trained on this during in-service time. They have been giving rubrics on how to assess. They've been giving alternate evaluations to push away from those text-based evaluations, and they've been giving a variety of other resources to use to implement this formula writing model. The purpose of this model is to strengthen writing skills, not only in writing or ELA, but across the cross-curricular. So that would be in social studies and science and math. All of those writing scores are right now below par. So the district, and I'm sure the vice principal, would like to see those improve. Right now, the vice principal, Kim, she has 4 different approaches she can use to continue to strengthen those writing skills, and that involves continuing to discuss and collaborate and communicate on ways to improve them. The 4 different methods include directive control, which assigning teachers a specific plan that the vice principal and admin have already created on improving those skills. She can use directive informational, which is setting up a few different options as to what teachers can do, and they choose from those options after collaborating and communicating. We have the collaborative option, which is to plan jointly with admin and teachers to create the best plan. And we have non-directive. This leaves admin with very little input and control, and giving teachers the upper hand to create and plan out what they believe would strengthen the writing skills at their school district. Section 2 is legal or ethical issues. So at this time, IEPs are not being individualized and students aren't being accommodated based on their learning needs. So at this time, those students and families are being harmed by those lack of accommodations, especially for those students struggling with writing. So it's definitely contradicting a existing law and is a lawsuit waiting to happen if these accommodations aren't appropriately made. The existing laws that they do contravene are the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and the Free Appropriate Public Education, both of which right now are not being abided by. Because I do not know school board's policy on special education, I'm unaware as to if there is a breach of contract. You would think that the special education teachers would know that everything in an IEP had to be abided by at all times. So that means any accommodations or individualized assessment. But because I don't know the special education policy, I can't say for certain. These actions by not following IEPs can be considered discriminatory against those students with disabilities. Although we don't know if these actions were intentional, they could still be looked at from an outside source as discriminatory, especially to parents with students with IEPs. Section 3 is to synthesize. Kim, the vice principal at Triscuit Middle School, plans to enhance student learning through culturally responsive instruction and assessment by appropriate use of data collection for positive curricular reform. Section 4 is to synthesize the facts. So at this time, we have Kim, who's the vice principal. She's been the vice principal for now 5 years. Our student population, which is around 650 students, 80% of which are African American, and over 65% receive free and reduced lunch. So based on that free and reduced lunch data, I can say that this is a low socioeconomic area, some students of which are living in poverty. The teachers and staff at the school are majority Caucasian. Ellen is the academic yearly progress coach who has been assigned by the state to improve and implement the formula writing for the district. Places involved in this case study are Triscuit Middle School, so this is grades 7 and 8 only. It is described as an urban setting in a large metropolitan area. Programs used throughout the text are the formal writing model, as well as it mentions that the district uses Holt-McDougall text, and they use that solely for instruction as well as assessment before implementing this formal writing model. Section 5 is to review and prioritize. So this situation is damaging to the reputation and credibility, not only to the vice principal if the correct implementation and improvement isn't made, but as well as to other teaching staff and the middle school as a whole. When students at majority are performing well below basic when writing, that is telling me that there's something missing during instruction, as well as not implementing culturally relevant assessment, and that needs to be implemented for those improvements to be made. At this time, relevant stakeholders are the students. They are the ones that are being disserviced by not receiving the appropriate education. The teaching staff, the vice principal, as well as the school board, because this is a district-wide initiative. The school board is fully behind this, and at some point they did approve this. The outcomes affect all of those relevant stakeholders, as well as the parents. The parents want to see their students be successful, and they have to be giving the appropriate tools to do so, as well as community members. When students graduate and go into the workforce, they want students to be proficient in writing. At some jobs, that is necessary. And if the school is not giving them that opportunity to be proficient in writing by not providing the right resources, that becomes an issue. Some unanswered questions to include are, what's the current school climate? With the majority of students being African American when the staff is Caucasian, what's that climate like? What's the culture like within the school? Have the teachers, since implementing the formal writing model, has any culturally relevant assessment been used? What are other Rockford City School District's approaches that they're planning to use? And what are their scores like in relation to Triscuit's? What are parents' biggest concerns? The parents aren't mentioned much throughout the case study. It just says that it's very limited involvement, but those parents that are involved, what are their biggest questions and concerns? So far, with the implementation of formal writing, has there been any progress at this time? What type of school board do we have at this school? Is it mostly liberal? Is it conservative? It doesn't mention anything about the research on this formal writing. So what is the research? Is this really an effective approach to use? Another question is, what's the rapport between admin and staff? That would help you to decide if collaboration is a good approach at this time. Was there any discussion, lastly, between admin about what approach they would like Kim to see taken? So at this time, I do believe there's enough information to discuss how we can strengthen the writing curriculum. But as far as improving culturally responsive assessment, I think we would need more information to do so at this time. Section 6 are my available options. Action 1 is to take no further action. This would definitely probably cause potential conflict between multiple stakeholders, and Kim could risk losing her current position. Action 2 is the directive control approach. This approach is creating several different options for the teachers to help improve the writing curriculum, and then they would choose which option they prefer. This would still, based on the collaborative relationship, could still cause conflict between staff and admin if they feel like they're being kind of dictated over. Action 3 is directive informal approach. This is the choices option. So this is if the staff choose the wrong approach, this could still impact the student's future. Whereas directive control approach, the admin, they're just choosing this is what you're going to implement. Action 4 is a collaborative approach. So this would require much time, many meetings for planning to implement, as well as Action 5, which is non-directive. This gives admin no control or very little control, where teachers would select what they would like to implement on their own. Section 7 is to evaluate my options at this time. So Action 1 is taking no action. This would be the easiest option currently for the vice principal, because really the vice principal wouldn't have to do anything. But in the long run, it would be the worst, because it would definitely cause conflict. There would be potential disciplinary action against Kim for not doing anything. And ultimately, it is not an ethically sound decision at this time. Action 2 is the directive control approach. So this allows the vice principal to move quickly and to select what they would like to see done on their own. But this does not allow for any collaboration at this time. And it could cause harm to any relationships that were created between staff and herself. Action 3 is the directive informal approach. So this allows for some collaboration, because the vice principal, as well as other admin, they're giving the teachers options as to what they would see as successful approaches to improve the writing curriculum. And then the teachers would choose from those options. This would still, if the teachers choose the wrong approach, it can impact the student's future by not improving those writing scores. Action 4 is the collaborative approach. So this is collaborating fully, the staff and admin. This would enhance the relationship, but this would require the most time at this point to plan, to prep, as well as to discuss options, then implementation. Action 5 is the non-directive approach. So this allows the vice principal basically to work on other things, because she's not really involved at all in this approach. This would maximize the teacher's control, but the outcomes of this really are unknown. Section 8 is the best option available. The best available option for all stakeholders is to use the directive informational approach by giving teachers options to implement writing improvements at this time. Section 9 is the implementation. So I'd begin by having a meeting with the superintendent as well as Ellen to discuss any adequate strategies or recommendations that they would have to enhance the current writing program, and definitely focusing on culturally responsive assessment as well as cross-curricular opportunities for writing. Next, I would meet with any key staff members that already teach writing ELA or RTI, and I would gain any further input that they have and their recommendations. Then I would sit down and create at least 4 options for the teachers to choose from as to what they would like to see implemented in their classroom. Then I would schedule a school-wide staff meeting. This could be during our next PLC time or during our early dismissal Fridays. And I'd communicate the importance of strengthening our writing curriculum on top of the model that we are already using. I would explain the 4 options, the improvement options, and then